Good morning, team. Thank you again for jumping on this week. Episode 293 for Take Flight Weekly. Again, previously my Monday morning pep talk. And we're going to talk today about this topic that not a lot of people want to discuss, quite honestly, and it's the 3-year vision. And I really look at it as your bedrock for growth. We'll get into it a little bit today and remind you of the importance. But on this 293rd episode of Take Flight Weekly, I'm tackling, in my opinion, one of the biggest challenges that I face as a coach, as a leader, and a mentor, and that is convincing real estate professionals and those entrepreneurs that I coach to truly commit to a 3-year vision. Most real estate professionals and entrepreneurs love to do one thing, and they love to jump directly to action, right? They want to work on stuff they can see. And, they want to check those boxes. They got their to-do list out. They want to, I want to move the ball forward. And they get their dopamine drips out of these quick wins. And I get it. I was there. But when you evaluate elite level producers, those who consistently, like a drumbeat, perform in that top 1 to 3%, they operate differently. Okay. And they start with clarity. What do I want? How do I want to live? Who do I want to become? What do I need to accomplish? And they build a North Star. And that North Star kind of guides their every decision. And today I'm going to this is almost a redo, right? I'm going into the archives today. I think it was episode 253 I did last October, about the 3-year version, but I'm I want to use that term to reframe how you think about vision so your focus stays locked in on the version of you that you want to become and the version of the business that you want to build rather than just the things on your to-do list. If I just work hard, I'll be fine. If I work hard, I'll be fine. That's what the industry teaches us, right? Hustle culture. But before we dive in, I want to remind you of my purpose, and that's to help you, the full service, full fee advisor and entrepreneur, become more productive and more fulfilled. Why? Because I do truly feel that happy advisors and entrepreneurs just produce more. So consider this your weekly personal coaching session. So we need to look at the difference between being good and extraordinary, and it has nothing to do with talent. Trust me on this. Extraordinary performance begins in the mind long before it shows up in your numbers. Vision is the ultimate force multiplier because it pulls you forward. It fuels your decisions. It gives your every action down to choosing who you spend time with, to what you put in your mouth, when you get up, all of it. And without it, you're just reaching for the next email, the next call, the next market shift. When the market improves, I'll be better. My business will be back. That is not a way to live, not a way to build a business or a life. When your vision is clear, your daily grind turns into deliberate progress. And I'll tell you, those elite level producers I keep talking about, top 1 to 3%, man, they work hard. They work hard. And part of it is because they're driven by something. There's something that gets them out of bed every single morning. Okay? It just when your vision is clear, your daily grind, like I said, transforms into deliberate progress. And this is not about taking time away from revenue generating activities, right? It's all about making sure every move you make compounds towards the future you have already decided is yours. And top lead level producers are they're not changing. They're not just chasing transactions. They are they want to live a certain way. They want to become a certain person. And there's a lot of things there that drive them, and they have taken the time to document those, think about those things that drive them, and they use that as their fuel. They want to build a legacy, and it starts with that picture that's already painted in their mind. I feel the energy here. Just you guys are you know this, you sense it. And I got to tell you, I was sitting here, back from when you hear this podcast next week. Um, I will have been back from a week long trip to Boston, dropping off Lizzie, and I'm listening to a ton of podcasts. That was my goal. I wanted to just listen to what super achievers are saying. And the word that I heard a lot: reverse engineer. Reverse engineer. You got to think about the business that you want, and then you've got to reverse engineer back into where you are today with patience. They're all talking about it. I'm telling you, the top people, this is what they talk about. Why is it that most people resist this engineering of their vision? And that's where visioneering comes in, actually, right? Is taking the word vision and engineering and putting them together. Visioneering. Your brain is wired to keep you safe, okay? Which means it wants to keep you exactly where you are in the status quo. That because that is literally its job. I think you've got to remember that. When I think of myself thinking negatively, or I'm putting myself in a place where I'm not driving for that next level, I have to take advantage of this experience and time in the business. I've got to use it for the better good, right? But there's times where my brain says, Jim, you don't need to do that. You don't need to spend the time on that. And that's just my brain doing its job. Happens literally all the time. Like, probably one of the hardest things I have to do is keep track of that. What's it saying, right? And am I going to believe it? Sometimes if you wouldn't keep friends around that talk to you like your brain talks to you, trust me. So it's here to keep you safe. It's here to keep you in a place. And there are 10 stories, ten resistant levers that are reasons why people don't do this exercise of the 10, the 3-year vision. Here's why. You ready? And again, you heard him last year on episode 253, but I felt that going into planning season, and as we're all getting our minds right here, thinking about what we want, who we want to become, how do I want to live? There's 3 reasons that most people, or 10 reasons that most people don't go through this exercise. The first one is this lack of clarity about what you actually want. Why? Because you don't sit down and actually think, what do I want? And there's a lot of reasons for that. There's guilt. I can't want more than my parents had. I can't want more than what my siblings make. Yeah, I hear that. People pump the brakes because they don't want to come off showing off, right? Yes. That's down in some people's DNA. Lack of clarity. People just do not take the time to think. They don't know what they actually want. Fear of failure that stops you before you start, right? You don't want to get into a visioneering exercise because guess what? I might not succeed, and I can't handle another loss. So I'm just not going to go there. I'm just going to grind. I'm going to grind until I'm to a place where I can do that, right? I'm going to grind until I feel like I'm in a place where I can think and hope. But right now, I've just got to work hard because that's what I've always done, right? Overwhelmed. People are overwhelmed by this idea of 3 years. Um, again, I take you back to my trip to Europe this summer, and the Notre Dame Cathedral, 182 years in the making. 8 or 9 generations of families and woodworkers and craftsmen and limestone, you know, workers. I mean, and artists. Why can't we take 3 years? It's easy for me to say. I just started my fifth vision cycle. There were several of them that went longer than 3. And I tell you, what's great about it is I know that when I put something on a piece of paper now, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. Maybe I hit it a little early, maybe a little late. But I've got that experience. I know what happens when you actually take the time. 3 years goes by so fast. I know there's so many of you, man, I got to tell you, I think, with us being empty nesters here, and that previous 3-year vision had that ended end of June, had everything to do with getting our girls settled and some financial goals, of course, and some different things in there. But the two big words for me were preparation, right, and transition. Well, here we are. It's happening. And I know a lot of you are going through this. I guess you tend to find those people that are going through this same situation, and they will tell you just how fast 3 years goes. Just how fast. Unbelievable. So don't be overwhelmed by 3 years because as you know, it happens quickly. We have limiting beliefs about what you deserve, right? I'm telling you about that earlier. It's like, I don't deserve to have what I want. I don't deserve to really have a business that performs at a level like that or to have that kind of money. There's something down in your DNA that has created those limiting beliefs, and we've got to do everything we can to rewire those neural pathways to make sure that we don't think like that. But limiting beliefs is a big one. No emotional connection to the outcome. That's another one. You got to when you really want something, and this is where the top 1 to 3% really get this right. They want it so bad, and you look at those people and you're like, they're nuts. But they don't think they're nuts. They keep learning, they keep reading books, they keep, they hire, coaches, they're in mastermind groups, they're doing all these things to get better. Why? Because they are obsessed. you know, and they are emotionally attached to the outcome. If you're not emotionally attached to the outcome, it's hard to be in this business. It's hard to be an entrepreneur. Short term thinking, can't see past the next quarter or the next day or the next week, right? Fear of commitment. I don't want to commit to a goal because that's a lot of work. You know, if I put that down, if I write that down, then I'm gonna have to do the work. Yeah. Outside noise. There's so much out there. Oh my goodness. That is just really, really hard today with all the social media and the AI and all this stuff, right? Like there's so much noise where we don't have it's really hard to just slow down and think. Slow down and think. There's so much noise. And then we've been disappointed in the past. There's goals that you haven't hit. There's things that didn't go your way. You've tried doing this. It never works. Never works. So you're disappointed. So when you hear me talk about the 3-year vision, you're like, ah, Jim, I tried that. Didn't work for me. Well, there's something in that you didn't do the correct way or the correct process. And then there's no clear path from here to there. Well, that's my job, is to help you with the clear path through Take Flight, these Take Flight weeklies. I really, again, this desire of mine came back from the year 2008, where my brokerage at the time, when the market crashed, there was no talk about anything that drives a business. Okay. So I'm not going to let that happen. That's my job, is to make sure that if you're listening to me on a regular basis, you're going to know the how. I don't talk about anything that doesn't work or hasn't been proven by myself or somebody that I coach or mentor or train or, have in our office. I mean, I've observed a lot of people. So, did any of these things that I talked about here, those 10 sections, did any of them resonate? Did they resonate with you? Sound familiar? This is your brain's defense mechanism at work. But here's what I've learned after 4 complete vision cycles, now moving into number 5. My most successful business planning years followed my clearest visions. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. That first vision had one word, and this was in 08, 09. I wanted stability. I wanted to create stability, meaning financially. That was my word, stability. And, I have had, like I said, when I sit down and I think and I put a plan in place, I've had my most successful years after doing that. When you can see, feel, and practically taste the future you're building, everything changes. There's a podcast that I listened to when I was driving from Chicago I made it to Albany on the first day, and this podcast, and you can hear me pulling it up right now, but it was Mel Robbins, and she interviewed a neurosurgeon by the name of Jim Doty, Dr. Jim Doty. And I'm going to post that. It's going to be in my email that is attached to this. And it was so great about how he very simply learned how to manifest. Very simply, how the brain has to be rewired. It is a phenomenal listen. Okay. Um, so anyway, think about this. Internalize what I'm talking about. Here's how to do it in terms of how I have done it over the years, how I've sat down and created this 3-year vision. Um, you got to create a clear target. What do I want? How do I want to live? Who do I want to become? What has to happen over the next 3 years to feel like I made major progress? Ask yourself questions. Ask yourself those 4 questions. What do I want? Who do I want to become? How do I want to live? And what has to happen over the next 3 years to feel like I made major progress, both personally and professionally? Those, my friends, will give you a lot of the answers for your 3-year vision. Okay. What this does is it provides laser focus. It becomes your filter. Everything else is noise. If you know what you want, you can focus on it. Have you ever bought a new car and said, I'm getting the white. I'm getting the car in white because I don't ever see anybody with the white version of this car, or the blue, or the green, or the gray. And then you drive out of the dealership, and every car that you see is the one that you bought, that version. Why? Because you're focused on it. You notice it. That's the reticular activation system in the back of your brain doing its work. Okay. The target creates a laser focus. It energizes your action. This top 1 to 3 man, they become obsessed. It pulls you towards it, and it drives this growth that you want in your business, and it simplifies decisions. Like I said, it chooses your friends, it chooses what you eat, chooses what you read, how you travel, who you spend time with, all of it. And then it also unlocks this creativity that you need to get to where you want to go. When you want something so bad, you're looking for ideas. You're listening to podcasts, you're reading books, you're doing all of it. And you're like, I can do that. Is that going to help me get there? Okay, to be able to sit there and do it, you gotta block time. You gotta sit down and actually intentionally go spend time somewhere out of your environment that's going to give you that downtime to be able to do that. You've got to change your environment, block the time to do it, and go into deep work mode, like go into airplane mode, shut your phone off. How many of you have taken a flight, 3 hours? You're in airplane mode and you shut out all your technology down. I know some of you are still texting and all that, but you get the idea. If you can do that for 3 hours, if you can travel somewhere for 3 hours, you can go into deep work mode. This is one of the most important things that you need to do. And you need to ask these powerful questions like I just brought up. How do I want to live? Who do I want to become? What do I want to do? And what would what would have to happen to me in those next 3 years to feel like I made major progress? Start writing those things down, okay? And then define your targets. I have one person that I work with that has two very defined targets. I want X amount of money in savings and I want to pay my house off. Those are the targets for the 3-year vision. And they realize they want to get as far towards those goals as they possibly can, especially on the cash side. The house might almost be paid off, but you know what? In that next 3-year vision, they'll top it off. They'll make it happen. Then you got to review all these goals daily, and then you got to recommit on a regular basis. Okay, during your daily review of your action plan, your weekly action plan, your quarterly action plan, your annual action plan, your 3-year action plan. Every time you're reviewing or planning, you need to review that 3-year vision. Now, what I talked about last October in episode 253 is just kind of a play on word. I'm doing, like, as you can tell, I'm doing everything I can to make sure you guys understand how important this is, even to the point where I changed the word from vision to version. What version of you do you want to become? Okay. So instead of a 3-year vision, think 3-year version. You're just not planning goals. You're deciding on who you'll be when 2028 arrives, right? So if you set it for January 1 of 2026, when you wrap up 2028, who are you going to be? How are you living? Do you have what you want? Okay? What version of you will you be on December 31st of 2028? You know, that future version of yourself should be driving your 2026 plan, not the reactive person just dealing with the pressures of today and what's on your calendar, on your to-do list. Yeah, we all do that. I'll get into that later. That's called arena time. But there's times outside of arena time that you can work on other things. Okay, so creating a 3-year vision, I got to tell you, every time I get to do it, I'm fired up. Sometimes I'm almost so impatient that I want my current 3-year vision to be done so I can start planning the next one. That's how into it I am. It's that bedrock that makes everything else possible. And without this clarity that it provides, your business planning becomes a collection of disconnected tactics that'll lead you right to being plateaued, that version you've always been, the ups and downs, all of that. Your vision is what turns strategy into momentum. It what keeps you aligned during market shifts and when other opportunities distract you. So as we roll into September, as we wrap up Q3 and we start really getting into this business planning season, which by the way starts in earnest in September. The question isn't whether you'll have time for vision work. The question is whether you can afford to plan without it. Elite level producers already know the answer to those questions and statements. They see it in their mind before they ever see it in their reality. They see their vision in their mind before they ever see it in reality. Team, if today's Take Flight Weekly resonated with you, do me a favor and please share it with someone in your world who needs to hear it, whether it's a colleague, friend, team member. I'm here to help rise, or lift everybody up. And by sharing it, I think we can lift others as well. And don't forget, every episode is also sent out via email. So if you're not already subscribed, make sure you're on my list. And you can get on that list by going to my Instagram handle at Ask Jim Miller, and in the profile there's a sign up. It has all of the AI prompts and videos that I talk about and podcast episodes that I've been listening to. Like I said, I'm simply here to help. And if this has helped you, chances are it could help somebody else. Team, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Have a great, great week. And I'll be back on next Monday.